Hey everybody, welcome to the Cow Emporium. Today's video is a little bit different. It's a thank you, first of all. Thank you for helping us reach over 300 subscribers. And when we were reached 200 subscribers, I give you guys a little bit of the farm history. And I think that people really appreciated knowing how the farm began and what it was like. So I thought it would be cool every 100 subscribers that I would share something. So I wanted to get the 300 one in because thanks to all you guys, we're growing and growing. And so I need to get this in before, it's possible that we reach 400 and I've missed my goal. So in this video today, I'm going to give you a little bit more the history of the farm right from 1904. And so I'm going to be reading from a book. And while I do that, I'm going to put up some pictures of some of the farm equipment and what the farm looked like back then. And I hope you enjoy. So these are words straight from Glenn's great-grandpa's mouth. They're recorded in a book, and his name was Walter. The morning of April 5th, 1904 was a genuine Alberta morning, and as father and I watched from the door of our emigrant car, the countryside sure looked fine. We at last were at the end of our 8-day journey from Cedar Falls, Iowa to the Promised Land, and after all the snow we had seen in the Dakotas and Saskatchewan, it sure was wonderful. Father had been up in February when he filed on a homestead and bought a half section of land, but it was all new to me. And at this time, guys, Walter was only 16 when he came up here with his dad. We were met at the station by my mother's brother and a friend who had 3 horses in our car. We had dinner at Mrs. White's boarding house and started to unload the car. But before we could get ready to leave for the farm, we had our introduction to prairie fires. Someone just southwest of town let a fire get loose, and a light breeze took it right to town. The police closed all the stores and ordered every man out to fight fire except those unloading cars. Had it not been for the numerous town cows and horses eating the grass and tramping it down, the loss could have been bad. Although the fire came close to some buildings, it was put out with no real loss. About an hour after dark, we arrived at the farm with our 3 loaded wagons. Father had started a small barn when he was here 2 months earlier and had contracted a man to build a shack, which was completed. We were too tired to put up a stove that night, so we had a cold lunch and bedded down wherever we wanted to. There was lots of room between the badger holes. Next morning, we had a good hot breakfast. A couple more days, and we had all our equipment out to the farm. My mother and 2 sisters were not to arrive until the school was out in June. By that time, we had built a granary, which we used as sleeping quarters, and by Christmas, we had a real house to move into. There was a great migration of people to the Canadian West that year, and nearly every day, new cars of settler effects were spotted at the towns. Shacks were in appearance everywhere, and as soon as the ground thawed, little black patches of breaking began to show up. Okay, so settlers' effects. Cars of settlers' effects. Now I'm going to read to you what the cars of settlers' effects are. He had, in fact, referenced them as immigrant cars in this history book that I'm reading from. There's a little section about cars of settlers' effects, so please listen and imagine what it would be like. The phrase, arrived with a car of settlers' effects, does not mean much to the uninitiated, so it might be advisable to describe in a general way this unique institution, as nothing like it had previously appeared in Canada. There were variations, of course. In the bottom of the freight car, sometimes there would be 1,000 feet of lumber. On top of the lumber at one end of the car, 4 nervous horses were tied, with standing room only. In the other end, a cow or 2 and a crate of chickens shared the space, with some farm implements and a wagon and sleigh, each dismantled to save space. On top of the implements, the harness and other gear could be stored. In the middle, Away from the animals, necessary pieces of furniture, the stove, the kitchen utensils, rolls of bedding, some boxes of knickknacks, tools, hammers, axes, pitchforks, etc., and family treasures, including always a box of preserves, crammed the remaining space. There remained still some room at the top, especially above the cows. Here, an improvised loft was constructed. In it, a few bales of hay and a few bags of oats were stuffed to provide the animals with feed for the journey. Above the furniture, a crude bunk overlaid with straw and horse blankets was installed, and there the farmer, and perhaps a son or two, spent the time between divisional points. While the railway men were changing engines, there was time to water the horses and cows with pails from the taps provided by the railroad company for the purpose. Thus, the long journey was made unless there was enough settler cars in the freight train to warrant attaching a colonist car where the future settlers could sleep. If the prospective settler included no animals with his effects, he had the inconvenience of waiting weeks for the arrival of his car, which had been shunted onto some siding and forgotten. Profiting from the experience of early settlers, those who came later found that it hastened delivery to include a single animal, even a billy goat, so that the car might be labeled livestock. Well, there you have it, everybody. That's your 300 subscriber tidbit. A little bit of history from the farm and the words straight from Glenn's Grandpa Walter's mouth to your ears. More after we reach 400 subscribers. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.